They said they only listened to real parents. Not with venom. Not in anger. It wasn't a scream or a tantrum. No. Came clean, dry, precise. Like the kind of thing said after years of quiet rehearsals. Savannah, 15, didn't even look up from her phone. Her thumbs never stopped moving. We only take orders from our real parents. Not you. Rachel, 13, giggled. A wet little laugh like she'd been holding it in. Yeah. No offense or whatever. No offense. At my table. In my house. With the Wi-Fi I paid for pulsing beneath their TikToks and Snapchat feeds. On the furniture I built with my hands. Under a roof I've been patching for years. Alone, before their mother. Before their mouths came to eat up every weekend and every inch of peace I had left. I looked to Hannah. My wife. Their mother. She didn't even blink. She kept chewing like they hadn't just gutted me in front of her. Like she hadn't heard the words, or maybe she had and didn't care. Just stared at her plate like it was the only thing in the world that needed tending to. That silence, it was the loudest thing in the room. I didn't respond. Not with words. That night, I waited for the house to go still. Then I opened my laptop and shut off the Wi-Fi. Changed the password. I went to the breaker box and pulled the power from their bedrooms. I gathered their chargers, their devices, every link in the chain that let them feed on me while calling me irrelevant. I took them all. And I locked them away. Then I sent their father a message. Just 6 words. Pickups tonight. They're all yours. He replied within 10 minutes. On my way. And that told me everything. When he pulled into the driveway, I was already outside with their duffel bags packed. Not everything, just enough to send a message. The rest would follow if it needed to. The girls came out, slow at first, like they couldn't believe I meant it. Rachel looked stunned. Unsure whether to cry or roll her eyes. Savannah. She wouldn't even look at me. Her stare was fixed on the ground like it had answers she didn't want to hear. Neither said goodbye. Neither thanked me. Kevin, their real parent, didn't say much either. He popped the trunk, kept the engine running. I loaded the bags myself while he leaned on the hood like some kind of savior dragged into a job he never wanted. When he muttered, "This really necessary, man?" I just looked at him. You tell me. You're the real parent, right? No response. Just a faint shrug. Like he didn't want to be seen taking sides. Like he'd missed the last 3 years entirely. When I married Hannah, I thought I knew what I was signing up for. I'd been through 1 marriage already. I had Noah, my boy, my shadow, my quiet witness. He came with me through every move, every job change, every dry season and thunderstorm. I told myself we could build something stable again, something that wouldn't crack. Hannah had 2 daughters, a sweet smile, promise of shared burdens. We'll do this together, she said. We'll make a real family. So we moved them into my home, the house I'd paid off down to the final decimal. A plain but sturdy 2-story near Austin, Texas. Nothing flashy, but every inch was earned. I opened my door, my wallet, and my life. And for a time I believed the lie. At first they were just distant. Not rude, not openly hostile, just cautious. Sideways glances, short answers, lots of "I'll ask Mom." I chalked it up to nerves, the awkward blend of new routines and old scars. Their dad still had visitation, though he flaked often. I never tried to replace him. I just wanted to be another pillar in their life, a second source of steadiness. I remember buying Savannah her first volleyball set when she made the team. Drove 2 towns over to find the right one. She said thanks without looking up, then left the receipt in the back seat like it never mattered. Rachel wanted guitar lessons. I paid the instructor up front. 6 weeks in, she quit. Never told me why. Just left the instrument in the garage to collect dust. And still, I told myself, they're just kids. They'll come around. But the cracks deepened with every day. It wasn't the big things. It was death by 1,000 cuts. I'd ask them to put their dishes in the sink. We'll do it later. I'd tell them to clean their rooms before guests arrived. Mom didn't say anything. I'd leave notes on the fridge about chores. They'd disappear, ignored. Noah started noticing. He'd do the dishes without being asked. take out the trash before I could even tell him to. One night, while drying plates, he looked at me and said, "Why don't they have to listen like I do?" And I couldn't answer, because deep down I knew the truth. I wasn't a father to them. I was an intruder, a man playing a part they never auditioned for. A bank account with arms. A ride when mom was busy. A placeholder for someone they resented. Someone they pitied. Someone they clung to because blood made him special even when presence didn't. It's a strange thing to build a life that only half the room acknowledges. To wake up early, pack lunches, repair leaky faucets, cover insurance bills, and still be met with that look. That slow, withering, "you're not my dad" look. It got to where I started tracking the thank yous. Like a ledger. Noah said it every time I helped with homework. Picked him up late, bought him new shoes. The girls? Nothing. Not once. Not even when I took them to the doctor, stayed up with them sick, or covered their field trip fees when Kevin's checks came up short. It's not about needing praise. It's about not being erased. And still I stayed. I stayed because of Hannah. Because I believed her silence was tension, not betrayal. That if I just bore the weight long enough, she'd see how unfair it had become. That maybe, one day, she'd stand up at that table and say, "Enough, he's your parent too." But she never did. She smiled through dinners where I was mocked. Smoothed over awkward moments like they were passing weather. Always one more excuse. They're just being teenagers. Their dad poisons their heads. They'll come around. Only they didn't. They calcified, hardened, drew their line and dared me to cross it. And when they finally said it out loud, when they said it to my face, I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just listened. And then I acted. Because a man can only carry the weight of a family that refuses to claim him for so long. At some point, the spine snaps. And when it does, the collapse isn't violent, it's surgical. You remove the parts that rot. And you see what still stands. Noah's tablet was still warm when I picked it up off the floor. The screen looked like ice after a boot's heel. Shattered, bleeding light from a corner that had caved in. It wasn't dropped. It was thrown. The protective case lay beside it, peeled back like skin after a wound. I turned it over once. Sparked, flickered, and died in my hands. He was on the couch, curled in on himself. Shoulders tight, red-faced, trying not to let the sobs break through. She got mad, 'cause I wouldn't give her the password, he whispered. She wanted to play some game, and I told her no. She said I was being selfish. Then she grabbed it and... He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Savannah, 15. Loud when she wanted to be. Silent when she knew it hurt more. She had her mother's cheekbones, her father's temper, and none of the guilt that should have come with either. She knew how to say just enough to get away with things. How to cry on command. How to play the victim while holding the knife. I walked upstairs. No yelling. No slamming doors. I just opened hers. She was on her bed, headphones in, screen glowing against her face. I held up the tablet. "You broke it." She looked, blinked, and shrugged. "Wasn't my fault. He was being annoying." "You threw it, Savannah." Her voice didn't rise. She just looked at me like I was the one causing a scene. "Whatever. It's not like it was a big deal. You're always buying him stuff anyway." I stood there, holding the broken thing in my hands. The pieces of what I tried to give her family. The cracks in the screen looked too familiar. I saw them everywhere now. In our dinner conversations, in Hannah's silence, in the space between my name and the word, Dad, that never came. "I want you to apologize," I said, "and you're going to help pay for the repair." That's when she fired the shot. "You're not my dad." The same sentence I'd heard in a dozen ways, through rolled eyes and ignored chores. But this time it was said with intention. Like she'd been waiting for the perfect moment to throw it at me like the tablet, and break something that wouldn't flicker back on. I nodded once, left the room, didn't say another word. Downstairs, I passed Hannah in the kitchen. She saw the tablet, said nothing, not even a glance of concern. Just turned back to the fridge like this was a Tuesday. I went into my office, sat down, opened my laptop. First, the family phone plan. Savannah's line paused. Rachel's too. Then the Wi-Fi. New password. Only my phone, my laptop, and Noah's Chromebook stayed connected. Streaming services? Gone. All of them. Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify. Every username and password they'd begged me to create, every login they'd passed around to friends like free candy, changed. Locked. Then the locks themselves. I called the locksmith. Paid extra for a same-day rekeying. 3 keys were made, one for me, one for Noah, one for Hannah. The girls didn't get copies. I packed their bags. 1 duffel each. A few changes of clothes, their chargers, essentials. Nothing spiteful. Just what they'd need to be gone. And I waited. When they came home, the sun had just started to fall. The front door didn't budge. Savannah knocked. Rachel texted their mom. I sat at the dining table, watching the light shift on the walls like nothing was different. Hannah called. You locked us out? No, I said calmly. I locked them out. You still have your key. Are you serious? They said I'm not their parent. I'm just respecting that. Their parent can come pick them up. She didn't speak after that. Just hung up. 40 minutes later, Kevin's car pulled up. An old SUV, tires bald, bumper cracked. It stank of stale fries and backseat fast food wrappers. He stepped out like a man summoned for jury duty. Reluctant, late, and bored. He said, "This really necessary?" I handed him Savannah's bag. They made it necessary. They're teenagers, man. You can't take it personal. I stepped in close, looked him in the eye. If your daughters looked at you and said you don't matter, that you're nobody, would you keep paying their bills? Would you keep giving? His smirk faltered. He looked away. No, he muttered. Guess I wouldn't. Rachel came out carrying her own bag. Savannah followed, slower. She didn't look at me, didn't have the nerve. But as they got in the car, Rachel turned back. What if we want to come back? I looked her in the eye. Then you start with respect. The car backed out of the driveway. The engine wheezed as it rolled down the street. I watched until the red taillights disappeared behind the trees. Inside, Noah sat on the couch. He looked smaller than usual, tired, but peaceful. Are they gone? He asked. For now. He nodded. Good. That night, I cooked just for the 2 of us. Pasta, garlic bread, steamed broccoli, the simple stuff. Noah helped set the table. No one complained about the food. No one scowled at their plate. No one asked if they could eat something else. It was quiet. It was easy. It was home. Later, I walked past their empty rooms. Saw the posters, the messy beds, the shelves lined with half-used perfumes and books with spines uncracked. Ghosts of girls who never saw me. My home had been a hotel. My wallet a vending machine. But that night I reclaimed it. Not with shouting. Not with threats. Just with a quiet decision. They didn't want a stepfather. They wanted a sponsor with no authority. Now they had their wish. And I had my silence. The quiet didn't last. 10 days. That's how long it took for their world to start cracking. Not mine, theirs. 10 days of living without the invisible net I'd spent years weaving beneath them. 10 days without Wi-Fi, without Uber rides on my dime. Without a stocked fridge they never thanked me for. Kevin called first. They want to come back. His voice was tired. I imagined the chaos. 2 teenage girls under his roof, sulking, snapping, watching their comforts dry up. I could hear it in the way he paused before speaking, the way he cleared his throat like he'd been made to say it. They're asking to come home. No, I said. Silence. Not unless the terms change. He didn't argue. I hung up. That night, Hannah stood by the sink with her arms crossed, watching the dishes stack. She didn't speak right away. She never did when she wasn't sure if she was angry with me or just angry things weren't easy anymore. They're kids, she finally said. They don't get it yet. I didn't look up. They got it enough to say the words. Her voice cracked a little. You're really going to make them beg? I dried my hands. No, I'm going to make them choose. Choose. Not apologize. Not grovel. Just choose. Live by the house rules or live under someone else's roof. A few nights later, the knock came. It was Rachel. Not Savannah. Not both. Just Rachel. Hoodie drawn up, duffel bag in hand, standing on the porch with eyes that had finally seen the inside of reality. Hannah opened the door. Rachel walked in like someone afraid the floor might vanish. She didn't cry, didn't flinch, just stood there, waiting. I sat at the table. Same spot I always sat. Same table they'd used to dismiss me. Same with their elbows had leaned on when they laughed at my cooking or told me I wasn't family. I didn't move. Rachel stepped forward. "I'm sorry," she said. I waited. I shouldn't have said what I did. Or laughed when Savannah did. It wasn't okay. I nodded once. "I didn't realize how much you did. Not until it was gone." That part landed. Not just the words. The truth in them. Hannah stood behind her, quiet, watching me, waiting for me to say something that would let everyone breathe again. I leaned forward. "You don't have to love me, but if you're in this house, you will respect me. That means please. That means thank you. That means when I ask something, you don't look to your mother first to see if it matters." Rachel nodded. "Okay. You understand?" "Yes." She stayed. Savannah didn't come home that night. Or the next. I didn't ask where she was staying. Kevin didn't call again. When she did show up, 4 days later, it wasn't with apology. It wasn't even with words. Just a duffel on her shoulder and her eyes fixed on the ground. She walked past the threshold like it was neutral territory. No one said anything. Hannah went to her, hugged her, checked for bruises that weren't there. I stood at the end of the hall, watching, waiting. Savannah looked at me once, then looked away. She went upstairs. Hannah followed. Dinner was awkward. Savannah didn't eat. Rachel did quietly. Noah cracked jokes to fill the dead air. I let him run the room like it was finally safe to be a kid in it. Later, as I turned off the kitchen light, I saw Savannah's empty plate in the sink. Not on the table. Not abandoned. In the sink. Wasn't an apology. Wasn't a gesture. But it was something. That weekend we sat them down. Hannah wanted to lead the conversation. I didn't let her. I spoke. "You can hate me. That's your right. But you don't get to hate me and live off me. That stops now. I'm not your father. Fine. Then I'm also not your servant. Not your doormat. Not your backup plan." Rachel nodded. Savannah didn't look up. I continued. "In this house, every adult gets respect. That includes me. If you want to roll your eyes, slam doors, talk back, do it at your dad's house. Not here." Silence. I waited. Savannah spoke first. "I didn't mean it like that. I didn't flinch. You said what you meant. You just didn't like the consequences." She blinked, looked down. Then, almost too soft to hear, "Sorry." Not a hug. Not a performance. Just a word. It was enough. Noah grinned at me later, when the girls were upstairs. "I think they finally get it." "Maybe," I said. "Can we get ice cream?" We did. That next Monday, I came home and found Savannah doing homework at the table. Mine, not the coffee table, not the couch. She didn't look up. Just kept working. "Need help?" I asked. She nodded. Didn't roll her eyes. Didn't sigh. Just moved her notebook a little closer to where I could sit. Rachel started saying thank you. Every time I drove her. Every time I bought groceries. Even when I didn't respond, she said it anyway. And for the first time in 3 years, it didn't feel like a performance. Felt real. Not perfect. Not healed. But real. A year passed. Not quickly. Not painlessly. But it passed. Time doesn't heal everything. That's a lie people tell themselves to sleep better. Time just builds distance. Distance between the wound and the next time you have to look at it. But distance can be useful. It gives you room to breathe. To look at the shape of things without flinching. Savannah and Rachel stayed. Not because I begged them. Not because I bent. They stayed because the rules changed and they either adjusted or left. And they didn't want to leave. They didn't say that out loud. They never would. But they showed it. Started small. Savannah asked me to check her essay before she submitted it. I didn't say a word, just sat down next to her, red pen in hand, and went line by line. She didn't argue, didn't roll her eyes, just nodded, scribbled notes, rewrote. Rachel started clearing her dishes, unasked, every time. Sometimes she even did Noah's. Noah noticed. Of course he did. Did you threaten them? He asked one night. No, I said. I stopped pretending, because that's the truth. All those years I was pretending I was okay with being invisible, pretending I didn't mind the jokes, the snubs, the way they looked through me like I was a shadow in their real father's shape. I swallowed it all in the name of peace. But peace without respect is just quiet resentment. And eventually, the quiet turns into rot. They listen now, not just to avoid punishment that would have been temporary. They listened because they'd been forced to see what the world looked like without me holding the walls up. Kevin couldn't keep them. Not really. He had the charm for a weekend and the patience for a holiday dinner. But not the stamina for real parenting. Not the grind. Not the slow, soul-sucking, everyday act of giving without applause. So they came back. And this time they saw it. Saw the lunches made. The lights kept on. The endless rhythm of full gas tanks and tuition checks and dentist appointments. They started saying thank you. Not always. Not perfectly. But enough. And sometimes that's all you get. Enough. We were at the dinner table a normal Thursday night when it happened. Savannah passed me the salt. Thanks. One word. Simple. Unremarkable. But it wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. Like it belonged. Like it had weight. And after dinner, she cleared the plates without being asked. Washed them. Dried them. Rachel helped. Hannah just watched. Not smiling. Not commenting. Just watching like she wasn't sure when the shift had happened, only that it had. Later that night, Rachel came down the stairs holding a sleepover flyer. Can I go? She asked. I raised an eyebrow. Mom said it's okay, but I wanted to ask you too. That stopped me. Not the question. The second part of it. They'd never done that before. Never asked me, only Mom. I was always the final stamp. The afterthought. But now? She waited. And I said yes. Because she asked. Because she made me part of the decision, not just the consequence. The next morning, they all left for school. Hannah for work. The house emptied. I stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, and looked around. No mess. No tension. No silence thick with resentment. Just a house. A home. Mine. And I thought about that night. The night I changed the locks. Shut off the Wi-Fi. Called their bluff. Called their father. People said it was harsh. Said I should have talked more. Waited. Been patient. But I'd been patient. For 3 years. And patience that turns into self-erasure isn't noble. It's pathetic. You don't get family privileges while rejecting family rules. You can't live under someone's roof, eat their food, use their time and spit in their face, and expect the door to stay open. Respect is the bare minimum. Love is optional. But respect, that's the line. They crossed it. I answered, not with rage, not with violence, just with absence. I left the table they took for granted. And they noticed, because when the hand that feeds you pulls back, suddenly every bite tastes different. So now we're something closer to a family. Not by blood, not by name, but by choice. Mutual choice. They choose to be here. I choose to let them. We still argue. Still have slammed doors. Still slip. But they don't look through me anymore. They look at me. And when I speak, they don't check Hannah's face first. That's not perfection. But it's progress. And it's real. So now I ask you, was I wrong? Was I wrong to cut the rope when they refused to climb? Was I cruel for saying, if I'm not your father, I'm not your provider? Or was I just the only adult in the room willing to teach them what family really costs? Tell me, would you have endured it? Or would you have done what I did? Draw the line, and watch who steps back over it.